All right, viewers, welcome to the Bronco Country Roundup, episode 5, and it is game week. We have made it through the long off season. We're in the dog days of summer, and Boise State football is this Saturday at 1 o'clock Pacific. If you're in that time zone like me, 2 o'clock Mountain, and what is it, 4 o'clock Eastern, and then we don't care about Central Time Zone. Today I am joined by Kevin Hyatt, Karter Davis, Chris Van Sickle. Chase Blorfield could not be with us today, but he will be back soon. Chase is actually a little bit busy. He is running a recruiting lead that we wanted to, see if we could get some eyes on. He is watching Sawyer Glorfield in his first high school game, I believe, or it might be middle school. Future Bronco. He plays outside and inside linebacker on defense, and then he plays tight end. So Sawyer, we will be watching your career with great
Sawyer.
interest. And future Bronco.
That's right.
So a little bit of housekeeping to get us started today. We are changing our schedule for the Bronco Country Roundup. We are trying to post a little bit quicker, earlier in the week, I should say. So we will be trying to post our episodes on Tuesday to try and cover the previous game and then give you a preview of the next game. So just keep an eye on that little change in scheduling. Also, a little recruiting news, and there is not a whole lot of news for the recruiting roundup. So Boise State offered 2 JUCO linemen, which is significant. That's something that we've talked about on the podcast before. Spencer Danielson really likes going after the JUCO guys. There is kind of a niche for Boise State and other top group of 5 programs to go in and get those really highly talented JUCO players that are maybe being ignored by some of the big power programs. So from what I saw, we've offered one on each side of the line. So 2 total recruits, so offensive linemen, defensive linemen. And both of them are pretty highly ranked, highly regarded. So just something to keep an eye on. But other than that, no real recruiting news. We have another little housekeeping update. Our sights and sounds. We're going to be focusing on kind of interviews in season. And thank you to Chris and then perhaps Karter Davis as well for doing that. We are going to try to get down to practice, but fellas, this is not our first job. We live very busy lives, so when we can, we will get down to the field to bring a little sights and sounds information to you, but that will be sporadic here and there. So not something to hold your breath on. Instead, look forward to the weekly interviews. That's going to be, and frankly, Chris, you did an awesome job interviewing Jake Ripp. And then we also have our interview with Reese. Actually, if you want to comment on that real quick.
Yeah, I had a great time talking with Jake. He's just a real genuine guy. I hope you go listen to the interview. We kind of go over what it's like to put on weight. I mean, this kid is ripped. The last name fits. He kind of talked about that. We got into what he likes to do outside of football, and he names his favorite food spots in Boise. So hopefully they listen and get some NIL deals for him. So take a listen to that. It was a lot of fun. I really appreciate him talking to me, and I look forward to doing more interviews.
Yeah, and I look forward to listening to them. That was really fun. That was a fun listen, and looking forward to seeing Jake Ripp on the field more, which kind of helps us segue to one of the items on the agenda. We have the depth chart being released today, and Jake Ripp cracked it. So keep an eye out for him. And then we're going to review and preview, I should say, we're going to preview Georgia Southern today. Offense, defense, what we think that game might look like. And then we're going to talk about where we think the season is going to go, the overall record, try and cast our best predictions, and have a nice spirited discussion about that. So without further ado, Kevin, We were a little bit off on the offensive depth chart, just a little bit. What do you think?
Well, yeah, we were, but I mean, we got most of it, to be honest. Um, if most of the ones that we picked to be, for example, wide receivers, uh, we had Chris Marshall and Prince is starting in front of him, Prince Stan. But really, you look at it, I said at the time you could pretty much just flip a coin, and frankly, that's what these are as far as the wide receiver on the depth chart. It's really just they put the guys in that were in the system last year who know the system, and then Latrell Caples, who of course is coming off of injury but has a long time in the system. So they got those guys in. Really, the only surprise as far as wide receivers, especially go, is true freshman Cameron Bates sticking on the travel team, which that honestly is a surprise given the depth that they had a true freshman crack that. It speaks to how good this kid is. Another Texas wide receiver. You could just put the Texas wide receivers on our offense, who they would be good. So it really speaks to the depth and the quality that we have there. O line, we pretty much hit it straight across for the most
Right, I
part.
did. That's right, I did.
Cage Casey, Ben Dooley, Mason Randolph, Roger Carrion, and Hall Schmidt. That was my pick, and I think that was pretty much everybody's. So we hit that one pretty good. Running back, I don't know how we were lucked that one out, but somehow we all came to an agreement that it would be Genty. And
Tough one.
yeah, that one you never knew where that was going to come from. And then you got Maddox, who I mean that was already released, so we kind of knew that was coming. But really, the offense is who I mean to say the off-use line, they are who we thought they were. It's the same guys that we figured it would be. There's no really huge surprises. Sire Gaines working up into the travel team. I mean, there's a 17-year-old true freshman who's going to be out there running against Oregon, who's ranked in the top 3 in the nation. But I mean, he's that good. You can't just sit a kid because he's 17. And frankly, if you're 6 foot 209 and as jacked as he is, you are a very special 17-year-old. So I don't think that that's going to be a problem at all. So the offense, the depth chart is really exactly what we thought it was going to be.
And I, for one, am pretty hyped about just seeing Cameron Bates this early in his career. He is a true freshman cracking the depth chart in that crowded wide receiver room. Interested to see what he can do, what he can bring to the table. And maybe it's like a rotational thing. Maybe it's he's on the field only in specific situations. We don't know. But I'm
I don't
really
think
excited.
I don't think it's going to be special situations. He's legit. He played at his high school. He played at one of the better high schools in Texas. He played quarterback. He played running back. He played wide receiver. He played corner. He played. I mean, he played whatever they needed. This kid's just an athlete and he's a baller. So he's one of those guys where you just, well, I mean, again, you say this about all of them, but you just get him the ball and just step back.
And one
So
thing
it's not a
sorry,
fluke. No, I was gonna say it's not a fluke with Cameron Bates.
I will say I was able to speak with Latrell Caples this last week. I turned on the wrong microphone, so I didn't get the interview. Got to learn how to do this.
Technical difficulties have been addressed.
Yeah.
But
This isn't
one
our
thing I
first
will
job.
drop from that interview that did happen, even though it's not recorded. I asked him who was the fastest player, fastest wide receiver. Cameron Bates. He dropped
Really?
Cameron Bates. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So
That's
In that fast of a
saying
room
something.
with Prince, I mean Latrell
Yeah.
himself. You've got
Prince has
obviously
some
Chris, and that's ridiculous. But
and he did all he
you were-
mentioned Austin Bolt as well, but I told him he couldn't pick himself. So maybe he would pick himself. But
He probably would. He probably was just trying to spread love. But there's one thing that I just thought about just now. I also love how this staff is trusting young players.
mhm.
We have we have Ty Benefield, who played last season, starting this season as a sophomore. Cameron Bates, true freshman, already making the travel team. I'm sure there's other instances of that I just can't think of off the top of my head, but this staff seems to kind of not do the favoring of the older players that kind of seem to be prevalent in previous eras. So that's also really cool to see.
Now, real quick before we get to the defense, well, one thing I want to let the viewers know is that Cameron Bates is number 80, so watch out for number 80 on your screen. Of course, Latrell Caples is number 3. If we're talking about the wide receivers, Bolt is 81, Camper is number 9, Prince Strawn 17, and Chris Marshall's number 5. So keep an eye out for those. But my question is, just looking at the depth chart here, Cameron Bates, he's 5'10". Now that is the shortest wide receiver on the depth chart, and by no means am I calling him short. He's taller than me, even with shoes on. But given the size, do you guys think like he might come in like the slot or even be used like a Shane Williams Rhodes type player, maybe just for this year, given how crowded the wide receiver room is? With that stature, he's 5'10", 170.
Yeah, I think he's a perfect slot wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to throw him fade routes. That's probably going to be Prince's job. But I mean, definitely, if I think if he's good enough, he could be a Shane Williams road type. Jet touch passes coming across the way, some other motions to kind of get him open. Maybe some drag routes across the middle of the field, outrun some DBs. That could definitely be it.
Yep.
He that's exactly his MO. Is just get him the ball crossing in front of the safeties behind the linebackers, I mean in front of the linebackers sometimes, but get him the ball on that cross where you hit him full speed and he's got a couple of yards to make a decision on where he's going to go. He's going to kill you. He'll eat you up all day right there. So yeah.
Well, if he's fast as everyone says he is, then I can't wait to see him on like a jet sweep motion or whatever you call it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Moving on to the defense, Chris, you've got the defensive side of the depth chart. We pretty much nailed that. Now, I will admit this is just a mistake, I guess, from one of our episodes where we profiled the defense. There's a name that we omitted when we were discussing our prediction for the depth chart. That's Gabe Hunter. So shout out to Gabe. Apologies to Gabe. He is a heck of a player, and we omitted him when we were talking about the defensive depth chart, and there he is, Gabe Hunter at the edge position. But anyways, just wanted to kind of rectify an omission. Chris, go ahead.
All right. While I got the floor real quick, I got to give a shout out to 2 people. One is Joshua in our comments. He was super nice. I really want to thank him. It was really kind words. And encourage everyone, drop us some comments. We'll be happy to answer questions. But we really appreciate those kind comments. So thank you, Joshua. And the second one is my very own wife. It is my anniversary, so I got to give her a shout out. It's our 4-year anniversary tonight. So I love you, babe. Thank you for allowing me to come talk football with these guys while you go set out and watch Grey's Anatomy. So that's my 2 shout outs.
Excellent.
Defense.
And that feedback, I was just gonna say that feedback, like that made my day, but it helps make us better. Like we are well aware that there are podcasts that have better like technical quality and all that stuff. We don't have fancy graphics and all that stuff, so we hope that we can deliver entertaining, amusing, and informative content. And so just thank you for the kind words, because that, I don't know, it helps morale and make us feel like, okay, we are actually making a meaningful contribution to this fan base, and it's really fun to see. So sorry, didn't mean to interrupt with that. And go ahead, Chris.
You're good, man. Yeah, like you said, no huge surprises on the defense. I kind of found it interesting how they listed the safeties. If you consider nickel a safety, Seai Oladipo and Rodney Robinson are going to both play nickel there. Kanohe Kaniho, I think that's how you say it. Okay. Is now a full-time safety. He had played some corner in the past. He's now a full-time backup free safety. I personally, and I think Evan and I talked about this, I think that fits his skill set a little bit better. Maybe
I think so.
Less in the box, more back in coverage. So I was excited to see that. I'm excited for a little depth at corner, hopefully. Devin Banks, the Washington transfer, played really well against us last year. That's for certain. So um, if you can carry that over, you're always going to need depth at every position, especially corner. And then Markel Reed, who feels like he's been here since Brock Forsey, I think. Poor guy. He just needs. I love his talent. He just needs to stay healthy. He's a backup behind Jeremiah Irby, the Cal transfer, who has come in and by all reports just taken over that corner spot. And then Mario McCoy, who for my money was the second half of last year's defensive MVP. I thought he played great last year. Really took once given the opportunity, took over that spot. So otherwise, Herbert Gums and Sheldon Newton are both listed as co-starters. I thought that was good to see. I mean, that nose tackle spot's super important at keeping those linebackers clean and stuffing the run. So to have that much depth there is exciting. And, Marco Notarini, super exciting middle linebacker. Another guy needs to stay healthy, but I think he's going to have a big season. And then Jake Ripp is going to back him up. And Gabe Hunter. You got to give a shout out to Gabe Hunter. He's easily forgotten. He had a great interception a couple years ago, I believe, against Utah State. Don't quote me on that one. But he's an athlete.
Wasn't Gabe Hunter a walk-on?
He was, yeah. He got us here into scholarship.
Yeah.
Walk-on or the scholarship? Heck yeah.
That's what built Boise State right there. So that's what you love. So and then I've said since we started this whole podcast, I think Jaden Virgin Morgan's gonna have a big year. Number 5. So excited to see it. A lot of depth at defensive line, more than I can remember us having in a while. So I'm excited to see that. One name that did not make the list, but I think is going to have a good season. It's another defensive lineman, Michael Madry.
Oh yeah,
I like him a lot. I think he'll see some time if injuries come up, or just get in the regular rotation, just because he's talented. So, but very
highly recruited.
He was, yeah. He chose us over some legitimate, pretty good offers. So, but that's my depth chart right there.
Now, one point of intrigue I have on the defense is Max Stieg, the sophomore out of Germany, backing up Hassanein. That's really interesting. One, it's interesting to me that he's not a redshirt. Coming over from Germany, they have the developmental programs over there that get them right, but then he's really transitioning into playing in the United States. Oh, was that a sneeze, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm okay.
I do want to speak on Max though, because it's interesting that you brought this up. I think Max Stieg is one of the biggest whiffs I've had as being a writer for Bronco Country, because people probably don't remember this, but a while ago I did recruit write-ups for all the commits, and when I watched Max Stieg, I was so unimpressed with the talent that he was playing against. I mean, it was just he looked like a man amongst children. These were just the most uncoordinated linemen that I'd ever seen. He was just flowing right through them. And I was like, this kid just benefited from having crappy people to go against. And I wasn't going to write that. So I was like, we'll see about the German league. But in my mind, I was like, this kid is just benefiting from not having good players, good linemen to go against. And I could not be more wrong. Because, he's not a freshman because he played last season. He had some plays, and now he's backing up Hassanein, which is just a huge role for somebody so young. And so whenever I hear his name, I always think about how, wow, there is a reason I am not hired by Bronco Country or by On Three or anybody to do these rankings, because I would suck at it.
Well, he is 6'4", 264 pounds as a sophomore, and he's number 95. So keep an eye on him. He's backing up Hassanein, but he might get in there on a rotation, or I don't know, if they have maybe a goal line stand or something, they need some extra linemen. That could be very, very interesting. I'm very intrigued by seeing his name instead of who I believe we expected Tyler Regas to be there. So that's kind of an interesting subversion of expectations, I guess. But still. Oh,
those
go ahead.
European players, they play at the NFL Academy, and we have an in there, which is how we're landing these kids. We got him, Steege, and then we also got Lopez
Yep.
Sanusi last year,
Yep.
another
Lopez. Yes,
defensive
we did.
lineman. Those kids are
Out of
legit.
Dublin.
They are legit. We have an in with Chase.
Baker.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Thank you, Chase Baker, who everybody knows was the absolute stud, standout nose tackle that we had. He was a beast. Oh my gosh, he
He
was a
was.
beast. And having him over there at that NFL Academy is huge. We've offered another European kid a
Yep.
safety, and man, I hope we get him. These kids,
Mhm.
those guys that they're producing, there is legit NFL talent over in Europe that's just not being tapped into. And these are kids that are too big to play soccer, and they're not tall enough or what coordinated enough to play basketball. And they're just an untapped market who go around playing rugby, which nothing against rugby, it's awesome. But if you can get into football, you're going to make a heck of a lot more money.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Unless you're
he's
playing for the New Zealand All Blacks.
he's pushing them. Well, yeah, that's true. But he's pushing. I won't say he's pushing, but he's letting some kids know about the opportunities of Boise State, and it's working out great. That's another untapped, along with JUCO. That NFL Academy is another untapped uh, source of finding these just absolute terrors on the field. So we've got to give a shout out to Chase Baker for that.
Yep.
Oh, excellent. All right, viewers. So that takes us to this week's opponent. In 2 days, 2 days from this recording, we will be taking on Georgia Southern in Jonesboro, Georgia. I learned where they are from. It is going to be hot. It is going to be humid, and I'm just very glad that I am in like upper 60s Western Washington right now. It's sunny. I'm very, very grateful for that. So just a quick preview on Georgia Southern. I'm going to take us through the offense, and then Karter has the defense, and then we'll get into some other things on our agenda. So Georgia Southern, they were 6-7 last season, and they were 6-7 in 2022, which takes them to 12-14 under Clay Helton. Last year, they lost their last 5 games in a row, which included their bowl game. So they finished 6-6, qualified for the Myrtle Beach Bowl, and lost that a lot to a little to an Ohio University team. Clay Helton, if that name rings a bell, there's a reason for it. He was the head coach of USC from 2015 to 2021. He took over for Steve Sarkisian, when Sarkisian had to step away to get his health in order. So then he won, I think it was like 3 or 4 games, if that sounds familiar. It should, but he won a few games at USC before they removed the interim tag. And then he had a very kind of up and down tenure at USC. I don't think they really achieved any like major bowl games under Helton. There might have been one New Year's Six appearance under him. If I'm trying to remember, I was not able to research that in time. But then he was fired at the end of in 2021, following a loss to Stanford. So that was a mid-season firing. So then he got the job at Georgia Southern in 2022. He brought along offensive coordinator Brian Ellis, who he plucked from Western Kentucky. Ellis was his quarterback coach at USC, and at Western Kentucky, that offense really bloomed. They set a bunch of school records under his watch, and then of course he really improved the Georgia Southern offense. He changed them from like a triple option attack, which a lot of people kind of know them for, to now they're running more of a spread kind of air raid style offense. They do run the ball, which we'll get there in a bit. But during his first year at Georgia Southern, Brian Ellis, they were top 30% in the country in completion percentage. So they're going to throw the ball, They're going to throw a lot of shorter mid-level routes, and they're going to complete it a lot high percentage passes to really just matriculate down the field. They do go deep, but it's not going to be as often as, say, like a true air raid like Washington State offense from the Mike Leach era. So defensive coordinator Brandon Bailey, he is a young guy. They plucked him out of Buffalo. He came to Georgia Southern, and under his watch, the defense was top 30 in interceptions, and that's last year. And I think I already alluded to the fact that he is one of the youngest coordinators in all of college football. Moving on to the offense, which, guys, anything else on the coaching staff? Nope.
We took one out of Buffalo too, so they must have had a good staff for a while.
Say that again?
I said that we took one out of Buffalo too, so they must have had a good staff for a while.
They did. I believe a few years ago they were Buffalo was ranked not that long ago and in contention in the MAC conference. They had a good run there for a little bit. But anyways, going back to the Georgia Southern offense, they were 48th in scoring last year and 37th in total yards. So they can move the ball. Our defense, well, hopefully they're ready. Like I said, they're kind of an air raid, kind of a spread style offense where they will run the ball. So it's no more triple option. If you're expecting that, then, well, yeah, you haven't been paying attention as closely as I have. I think I'm funny. Anyways, they have a new quarterback. So they have some key losses on offense. They lost Davis Brin, their starting quarterback. He graduated. They now have J.C. French. They lost their leading wide receiver, Caleb Hood, who had 101 receptions, 948 yards for 5 touchdowns. He is now gone. They're trying to replace him, and I'll get to who they're replacing him with here in a second. They had some key gains. Auburn transfer at the tight end position. That's Tyler Fromm. We'll get there in a moment. Now, what's interesting is that they lost some linemen to graduation, a couple transfers. They lost, I believe, Rashid Miller, one of their starting tackles. He transferred. They brought in Kyle Frazier, who is a tackle from Savannah State, but he's not starting. I also saw in some of the news clippings that they brought in guard Justin Kunyak. I butchered that. He's a transfer out of North Carolina. However, he's not on the roster when I checked, and it still says he's either in the portal or they've got the North Carolina logo there. So it's a name to look for, but he didn't crack the Georgia Southern depth chart, which got posted just a couple hours before this recording. So now, going into it, Georgia Southern, they are an air raid offense, but they're going to run the ball with Jalen White. Last year, he had 160 carries for 889 yards and 9 touchdowns. That is good for a 5.6 average per run, or per carry, I should say. And that is pretty darn good. So when they decide to run the ball, they are efficient. They can get chunk yardage. I did not happen to catch what his long of the season was, but they are very excited about him and all the news outlets I was able to check. So watch for Jalen White, their running back. Their wide receivers, they're very excited about LV Shelton, or LV Bunkley Shelton. Whew, that's a mouthful. He is an Arizona State to Oklahoma to Georgia Southern transfer. He didn't really make a lot of noise at Oklahoma, but as a redshirt freshman at Arizona State, he had quite the season, which then led to the transfer to Oklahoma, which then, of course, led to this transfer. Dalen Cobb, he's a junior wide receiver. He had 2 touchdowns last year. Derwin Burgess, senior wide receiver, 74 receptions, 813 yards, 6 touchdowns. He's probably going to be their guy. And then just like today they announced someone who I wasn't expecting based on my research, but they announced Josh Dallas is going to start at wide receiver for them. They've got, at least on their depth chart, they have 4 starting wide receivers listed. So, like I've alluded to, expect them to pass the ball a lot, expect them to go for those short to mid routes, and then throw in a little bit of a deep bomb every so often. They can score quickly. They can also turn the ball over. Their quarterback, the guy who just graduated, whose name is Davis Brin, he threw 20 interceptions last year. That's a huge problem. They're hoping that J.C. French, the Memphis transfer, who has a total of 48 snaps to his name, and that was, I believe, all last year. They're hoping he can keep the turnovers to a minimum. We'll find out. But J.C. French, he has a career of 13 for 16, 122 yards and 1 touchdown. That's what he's got to his name. He has 14 rushes for 48 yards. That's the Georgia Southern offense in a nutshell. They've got some experience on their O-line. They've got some meat on their O-line, but it's really nothing that we haven't seen before. It's not like we're running up against an SEC O-line. The sizes and the weights should match up really well with our defensive line, at least from a schematic standpoint. I can't really allude to how talented or not talented their line is because they don't get enough attention. They don't get a lot of, that's just linemen in general. And there isn't a whole lot of stats that I could find for them to really comment on how talented or not talented their line is, other than size, weight, height, weight, and years starting. That's all I got for the offensive line. This should be a unit that is fun to watch. It's a fun offense. It's an offense that has improved every year throughout Clay Helton's tenure, and it could be a problem for our secondary, especially with how much they throw the ball, how many receivers they have that are weapons, and a new quarterback who can push the ball downfield. So expect them to throw it a lot, expect them to run it efficiently, and expect them to be a bit of a headache on Saturday. But Carter, I believe you had the defense. Well, real quick, is there any questions on the offense?
No. Not over
Everyone's
here.
spaced out?
No, we're good.
Well, I will take over the defense, and it won't be as in-depth as what you just did, Evan, because finding anything about this damn team is impossible. It's like they don't have a fan base. I don't know who is going to be in the stands because it seems like nobody cares. The sources I found were Athlon Sports, College Football Network, or College Football News. I obviously don't want to crap on Georgia Southern fans, but
no. And full disclosure, viewers, like Carter, what he's saying is like, if that preview felt a little bit choppy, it's because I was off of work today and I went down every single rabbit hole I could go down to find information on this team, and I'm still coming up short, especially the offensive line. I was not able to find all the information I wanted to. It was hard to do research on Georgia Southern, and that's after hours today, just sitting at my laptop, banging my head, who is covering this team?
Yeah. No, nobody's covering them. I don't know. People always say oh, there's not that many beat writers for Boise State and all this sort of stuff. I can't find anything on these guys. So I did my best, but it's not going to be that deep. So from what I was able to gather, the Georgia Southern defense is held up by very few people. There's some great players there, but those great players do a lot of the heavy lifting, is from what I found. Because I was able to find that 3 of their defensive players did make all Sun Belt first team defense. So we have 2 D linemen, Justin Rhodes and Isaac Walker. So that'll be definitely a challenge for our offensive line. And it seems like the pillar of that defense is Mark. I hope I'm saying this right. Marquise Watson Trent. He is their middle linebacker. He had 10 plus tackles for loss last season. And then there is a Sun Belt second team defense is one of their defensive backs, TJ Smith. But that was it. There's only four of them. And I'm not saying Boise State's any better, but after that, it seems to be a really deep drop. This team allowed 31 points a game last season. They did get some interceptions here and there. I think they might have led the league, some belts or were close, but overall, it really seems like if we can handle Marquez Trent, if we can handle Justin Rhodes, if we can handle Isaac Walker, Ashton Jetty's going to have a field day no matter what, but he'll have an even bigger day because there's really no other linebackers there. They have some transfers, but I mean, you can't depend on transfers until they produce. The secondary has one all Sun Belt player in TJ Smith. They have 3 or 4 transfers coming in, so we don't know how well they're going to do. And so it really seems like this defense has big holes. So if we play to their strengths, if we run right at Trent, if we throw right to Smith, it's going to be a problem. But I truly believe Dirk Cutter knows this better than I do. I truly believe Spencer Danielson knows this better than I do. And so I'm really not worried about the Georgia Southern defense. Like I said, if we play to their strengths, it'll be tough. But if we just play Bronco ball and just make them react to us, I truly think we're going to be fine.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that take, and that's no disrespect to Georgia Southern. After this game, after as much time and effort I put into researching this team, I'm going to root for them now because that I spent way too much time on this to not be slightly a Georgia Southern fan after this game. But let's roundtable real quick. I want to hold your feet to the fire, and I want you guys to give me a score prediction. You can tell me why or why not, or just like throw out a number. Why you think the Broncos win or lose this game on Saturday. So we'll start. Chris, what is your prediction?
I'm going to go 42-17 Broncos victory. I think Ashton Jeanty is Ashton Jeanty, 150 plus rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. And I think Maddox Matson comes out and is pissed off that everybody's worried about him starting and has a heck of a game. And throws a couple, I'll be real specific, to Prince Strong.
Ooh, yes. All right, Carter, what do you think?
I'm thinking probably 48-21, 42-14, 42-17, something along those lines. I just don't think they have the defense to stop our offense. I'm hopeful that our defense can have a little bit of a better secondary with Danielson and Chenander both really kind of fixing that. But I don't see how we lose this game. So worst case scenario, I think, is we get a 35-28 sort of score. I don't see how Georgia Southern wins, but I see how they can make it close towards the end.
Kevin, what you got?
I think here's my thing. I think that we are way more talented than they are. I think that this roster is loaded. I think, however, that it's the first game of the season and it's a new staff, even though most of them are actually not new to the positions, it's still new with a new guy running it and a new offensive coordinator. So I think that it's going to be a little bit closer. I see something more along the lines of, say, a 27-35 game. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that we dance all over them and just blow them out. But I just think there's a lot to work on still in the first game. Again, like I know it's not the first game, but it is the first game, and I just think that there's some things that need to be ironed out. I do think that they play well at home. I mean, they've only been an underdog at home by double digits by like 3 times or something like that before. So this isn't a team to take lightly.
They were 5-1 at home last year.
Yeah, so I think that I think they'll put up I think they put up a fight. I think we wear them down. I think that we have a couple of really big plays. I think we have a couple of long touchdowns, and that kind of just punches them in the gut in the second half. So that's my take on it.
Well, I'm actually really glad that you mentioned like it being the first game of the season. Now, going into this game, before I'd done the research on the offense and their new scheme, I still thought that they were a triple option offense. That's why I made that joke earlier. Well, yeah, they haven't done as much research. Well, they've been a triple option offense for forever. But now it's kind of an air raid. And what better way to test our secondary and to work out the kinks, which is, I mean, this fan base, the secondary is probably what gives us the most anxiety, just in general, because like there's some uneven play last year. We got beat a lot going up top. So what better way to get the season started than with like an air raid style offense with with a team that is beatable though. You get the scheme, maybe you make a few mistakes and you can clean it up, but it's not like a Washington situation where like one mistake, boom, that's 7. Another mistake, boom, that's another 7. Like this will be a little bit more forgiving of a matchup, and you can get your mistakes cleaned up quickly without them being like catastrophic. So that being said, I think it's going to be 49-28. I think the Boise State offense rolls. I mean, I would expect like some game management in the passing offense, and then we're going to try and run the ball down their throats. The 28 points, I think I am hoping that we kind of steamroll on offense. So the 28 points I'm giving them comes more like garbage time ask. Like this will hopefully be a game that settles down some anxiety from the fan base and really like goes out and proves like, hey, this Boise State defense, that they're different. They're built different. Haha. This season.
That's
Yeah. So that's what I think it'll be. It's a 28 points that I'm not really concerned with because we get the younger guys, second team, some like live reps. But now to end today's episode, we're going to have a little fun. We're going to punch in our season predictions, what we think this season, the 2024 Broncos, what will they accomplish this year? So we'll start Chris or Kevin, whoever wants to go first. Like, what are your predictions for this season?
good, Kevin.
9-2. I don't know.
9-2.
No, I'm just thinking. I'm trying to see if I want to go 9-3 or 10-2. I thought you were going to start with someone. Chris, you take it, okay?
All
I'm
right.
still trying to decide.
I got you, man. All right. Well, my heart says 11 and well, no, my heart says 12-0, but my brain says 10-2. With a loss at Oregon, which is respectable. And then just some kind of slip up somewhere. The games I'm most worried about are Washington State at Wyoming. Why do we always have to play Wyoming in November? Come on, Mountain West. Can we play them in September? Anyways, and Oregon State gives me some worry as well. They lost a lot of transfers, but they are still a very good team. But no, I see 10-2 with some hope for 11-1.
And to help give Kevin some more time, you mentioned the Wyoming game. Weirdly enough, that's one of the games that the fan base has mentioned, like online, on Twitter, all that stuff. They're worried about going to Laramie in November, and I get it. But this is one of the games where I'm not overly concerned because Laramie in November, it's cold, possibly snowing. What type of offense does that favor? A running attack. The Boise State offense is going to be a run first offense anyway. And it's not like we haven't been there before. This coaching staff has been there before in Laramie in the cold. With Wyoming, I feel as though their coaching staff, that might be one of the few coaching staffs in the Mountain West that made a change and didn't necessarily get any better. I don't think they got worse, but I don't know for sure that they got any better with the coaching staff they brought in. On paper, we have more talent than them. And if the weather is awful, our offense still should be able to run, essentially. Our passing game might be a little bit more pedestrian, but they have the same constraints and we have more talent. So that's one game I'm weirdly not as worried for. That it's been thrown out quite a bit, but
A lot. I like your optimism. I like your optimism.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's gonna be just like if the conditions are as bad as we think they're gonna be, it's not gonna be a fun game. It'll be low scoring, like a 2017, maybe close scoring game, like a 14-10 or something stupid. But I still think those conditions favor the style of offense that we want to run, and we can out talent them, we can out coach them on offense at least, and it's not a game I'm overly terrified of. Just sitting here from my comfy chair.
Gotcha.
But Kevin, did that give you enough time?
Yeah, I had to look through it. I keep waffling. I see either 2 losses or 3 losses. I don't see us going 11-1. I wish I did. I just keep going back to new staff, new starting quarterback, new OC. I just Oregon. I don't think anybody in their right mind can pick the Broncos winning at Oregon. I wish I could, but I mean they're loaded, ranked number 3. They're at home. That's just asking a whole lot. We did it once before, yeah,
And
but
it's
that
not
was
the 2000s anymore.
exactly. This is not the Oregon team that we beat previously. That team was not number 3. So this is I think that's a hill too high to climb. I think Portland State we handle. Washington State, honestly, I don't think they're going to be very good this year. Utah State is going to be horrible. Hawaii, I think we handle. UNLV doesn't really scare me. San Diego State, just because they're kind of unknown with their new staff.
I think Rebel Girl might disagree.
What was that?
I think Rebel Girl might disagree.
Oh,
Rebel Girl should not have an X account.
Yes,
I will not
believe in freedom of
Rebel
speech
Girl.
except for dumb people like that, and I hope she finds me.
I care so
Their own
much
fan
what Rebel
base,
Girl
sir.
thinks too. I base so much of my life on her.
There's a Robert one too. I don't know who it is, but Robert can also eat it.
Rebel
Robert,
Robert,
whatever
Rebel
that.
Robert.
Those two are
That
two
dude,
dumb peas in a
if it's
pod.
the same-
It triggered me now,
same
Evan,
one.
because now I'm upset.
If Rebel Robert's the same one, he's been around for 20 something years and he's been consistent the whole time. If it's the same guy.
That's all you can
I'm
ask for
pretty
is
sure it is.
consistency.
Nevada,
Well, hey, at least
I think
have
San Jose
fans.
State. I was gonna say I think San Jose State could be trouble, just because Neil Montalolo is a good coach.
Yeah.
So
They play tonight, so that'll be when we're recording. They play tonight, so people will know how good they are.
And then Oregon State. I think that Oregon State, even with everything they lost, it's still a good team. They still have a whole lot of their roster. They scare me quite a bit. Even getting them at home, playing them at 10. Anytime you play a team at 10 a.m., I mean, look at all the times we played San Jose State when they were horrible at 10 a.m. They pushed us to the limit. So I don't like it.
I hate those early games. I get why we do them for national attention, but I hate them so much.
It just throws everything off.
Everything off. It's just not fun.
I'm a morning person, so I love it. I would be all for like an 8 a.m. kickoff. Just sit there with my cup of coffee. Yes, please.
I think Albertson Stadium is at its best. 6, 7 o'clock kickoff. Starts to get dark right into the third and fourth quarter. Just a different energy. Night college football is just a different energy.
Yep.
As a student, those night games, when I was a student at least, did not bother me because like you got to at least the Friday night 7 o'clock kickoff. You got your game on the blue national TV. The fan base showed up because it was an accessible time slot after work. You just roll in. And then the next day, you get to wake up and watch your full slate of college football. It's like the best of both worlds. But sorry, I am rambling. Karter, what is your prediction?
So, kind of like Chris, my heart tells me 11-1. My heart truly tells me 12-0. I never picked the Broncos to lose. I will always be devastated when they lose. But honestly, 10-2, lost to Oregon, lost somewhere along the way. I'm not that high on Oregon State, Washington State, or anything like that. But I mean, we're going to lose somewhere, I'm assuming. But 11-1, yeah, I think is best case scenario, unless somehow we pull off a miracle.
All right, and I guess I'll kind of round us out with, yeah, I'm thinking. I mean, my heart tells me 12-0, just like you guys. Like, I am a diehard fan of this program. I love this program so freaking much, but my brain says 9-3 with a ceiling at 8-4. And I'll tell you why. I will tell you why, and it goes back to, I mean, I was talking about this on Twitter, or the app formerly known as Twitter. I think I commented on a Prater status, and then where I was talking about, we don't really have that level of confidence in the coaching staff anymore because it's all new, and the Boise State has won 10 games just once in the last 5 years about. And I mean, that does include the COVID season, but there hasn't been that real confidence, at least in the fan base, going into a game since like 2019. Definitely felt that. And they've only won 10 games once in the last 5 years. And so knowing that, it's like kind of show me. Like, they have so much. If they can play up to their talent, then it's 11-1. Who knows? Maybe they get a miracle at Oregon State if they can play their talent. But it's kind of, at this point, it's like, really show me. So if we're sticking with what they have shown us for the past 5 years, then it's going to be like a 9-3 and an 8-4. I do think we're going to lose to Oregon. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. Which, fun fact, I've got a bet with my wife on the Oregon game. She thinks I'm being too negative about that, and so if
That's a good wife.
Yeah, good support.
Yeah, if Boise State wins and beats Oregon, then I have to give her a massage every week for the entire football season. And for what it's worth, I'm a physical therapist. I know what I'm doing, so it won't be some janky massage. So I have to give a massage every single week for the rest of football season. We don't have anything for if I win, because it's a bet that I don't really want to win. I do think Oregon State is one that I highlighted as one that I'm worried about, because they lost a lot, but they also gained a lot in the transfer portal. They're well coached. They are very motivated, and that goes for that's the same for Washington State. I do think unless Washington State cougs it, then like they could be a lot of trouble. They are well coached. They are highly motivated. I think this season is going to be very emotionally charged for both Oregon State and Washington State to go out and show like, hey, like we're here too. And then I also have like the random Mountain West game. I already alluded to the fact that I'm not super worried about Wyoming, but maybe a San Jose, maybe just some random game that we kind of get punched in the chin. So I'm predicting 9-3. And I really want to be wrong because my heart says 12-0. But Karter and I, before this, were having a spirited debate, and Karter made some really good points. So I know you're chomping at the bit, so go ahead.
Yes, I'm going to keep this short because I don't want to drag this out longer than it is. But, you talked about show me, we need to see something. And I get that. We didn't see anything from the end of the Harsin era until he went to Auburn. We didn't see anything from Andy Avalos except for maybe a random gamer there. But overall, I believe the end of the era before, and really the whole era of Avalos, has kind of poisoned this fan base into being negative. And I get it. This fan base has such high expectations but such low feelings towards the coaching staff. Is just a terrible mixture. And I think, going positive now, I think Danielson has shown us, because he won a Mountain West championship. He is the first interim head coach to ever do so. So that already shows me that he made a drastic difference, because thinking back to the middle of the season last year, I was worried about having our winning record. That's what I was worried about. And now at the end, we got a conference championship out of it. And Danielson went out being who he is, who he always claims to be. And that's also the thing is he is about action and words. I feel like Avalos was words, but not a lot of action. And just from what Danielson has done, he brought in Malachi Nelson. Yeah, he's not starting. That's still a 5-star. He could have gone anywhere. That still helped build our brand. He kept asking Genty. Genty said that in an interview, that Danielson is one of the main reasons he stayed. He brought in the coach from Ball State and Woodard, so there's different blood in the coaching staff. And I think Danielson has shown action. Now, obviously, it could all fall apart, but Danielson really feels like a breath of fresh air. I mean, it just from everything I've seen, all the action that comes from who he is, it just seems different. Now, this could just be the homer in me. We could go 8-4, but I just don't see it. It feels different. There's action there, and I hope other Bronco Nation people hear this and kind of get that realization of like, Andy Avalos is gone, and we all love Andy for what he did as a player, but you don't have to worry about that anymore. I think Danielson really cares about his players, loves this fan base, and it's just different. That's just how that's. I'm going to end it with just it's different, different staff. It's going to be good.
I have never hoped to be more wrong than I do right now, because yeah, it's like you hit the nail on the head. It's like the past few years, like it's almost like poisoned the mind or the psyche of a fan base, where it's just like, oh man, like I got to mentally prepare, even though we have this really talented team, like, okay, they're going to like drop the ball somewhere. And like, I really do hope that that's wrong. No matter what, win or lose, I'm going to support them. I'm going to watch every game. I'm going to be hyped when they win. I'm going to be sad when they lose. And like I'm a Bronco diehard for life, so I do hope that my prediction is wrong. So without further ado, Chris, Kevin, anything to add to that before we call it a day?
No, just we're almost to that 20,000 season ticket mark. They just updated that the other day. I hope everybody goes and buys some season tickets. They just announced like 20 minutes ago that they are completely sold out of their Flex Pass option. So that's awesome to hear. So go out and buy some season tickets. It's going to be a great season.
All right. All right. Well, without further ado, that brings us to the end of episode 5 of the Bronco Country Roundup, our Georgia Southern preview and regular season preview. Please do drop us a comment. Tell us how stupid you think my prediction was, or like anything else you liked, you didn't like, and just let us know in the comment section. And please do have a very nice night, and go Broncos. We're almost there, guys. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.